Morning, y'all. Happy Taco Tuesday to you. It's Josh here from 904 PokeJacks. What I want to do is rebrand 904 PokeJacks. And what I mean by that is, yes, I started this business in March of 2025. August of 2025, I was awarded distribution. It was a lot of grinding. And I mean grinding, it was a lot of Japanese. And I did an initial, hey, this is 904 PokeJacks. Was it April, maybe? May? And I was grinding. I was selling a lot of Japanese products here in Jacksonville, Florida, locally. Never really felt like I did a true introduction. So I want to start off 2016 right and basically rebrand 904 PokeJacks so people can trust who I am and know that I'm trying to do what I can do for the hobbyist, the collector, the ripper, whatever you do with Pokemon or any other TCG, that my goal is to try to get it to you all at a fair price. So like I said, started this in March 2025. I got distribution through ACD of August of 2025. Minimal social media. It was just a lot of grinding. And when I presented it to my distributor, it was a phone interview. Basically the big question was, why did I want it? And, I told the reason why I wanted it. Basically, I'm trying to do the right thing for the hobby. Yes, this is a business. You got to make profit. But what I do get from distribution, like I've been doing since day one, which I haven't got a lot, but when I do get it, I do sell it at MSRP. Now, what gets on the store, it's a lot of collection items, right? So I'll buy collections out, kind of like, what DJ does, and put it at a lower price than market. And I know shipping sucks. I hate it. That's my number one thing I hear the most about is shipping. I try to be as fair as possible. I've weighed a numerous amount of packages. Sometimes I hit the mark. Sometimes I, take a little bit of it, whatever. Doesn't matter. Getting products out, if I take a $1, $2 hit, okay, big deal. Life goes on. I started 904 PokeJacks, for me and my kids. Hey, I loved Pokemon when I was a kid. They love it as a kid. We couldn't find anything. And when we did find any stuff, it was always, over the MSRP, which, hey, it's fine. I get it. It's a hobby. It's a collectible. It's an investable. However you want to look at it. That's, how you want to do business, whatever. Doesn't hurt my feelings, right? But what I wanted to do was try to be that guy for the little guy, right? My background, Navy, 19 years, coming up on retirement. I started it with, like I said, with the kids in mind and trying maybe something different when I retired. Don't get me wrong, I could probably find a great job doing some government contract thing with the Navy, and, my background's engineering. That's what I know. Diesels, steam, turbines, electricity, whatever. That's my background, right? And I just wanted to try something different, something I enjoyed. And, besides my shitty content, I actually like talking to people. I like to know people. And, that was one of the fun things that I enjoyed about driving around Jacksonville. And, basically I was like the Uber Eats here. People just hit me, hey, I need some Japanese boxes. I take it to them. Hey, I need some more Japanese boxes. Take it to them. But what I started to notice was when I asked certain, customers, hey, you mind meeting me here? No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. But I would never ask, for any additional money. I was selling Japanese booster boxes, maybe sometimes $5, $10, $15 under MSRP before the tariffs, or MSRP, I'm sorry, the TCG marketplace. And at the time before tariffs, it made sense. But when tariffs started, ramping up, that's when I started slowing Japanese sales because it just didn't make sense. But all that work that I put in and grinding, right now it's 12:30 here, or 0:20:30, 0:30, military folk, 12:30 a.m. right now while I'm filming this. So you'll see it, Tuesday morning. But it's a lot of work. You got to put a lot of time into this. It's not easy, and I'm trying my damnedest to make this work. It was a lot easier when I only had to worry about Japanese and Korean and simplified Chinese products because I could spend all day and get it, keep it on the shelves. But now I got the distro, and you have to feed the distro beast to build that spin history to get the product that I could provide at MSRP. So hopefully, I've invested a lot into distro. Obviously, it's a drop in the bucket to, Poke status or, any of those other big online stores. But, I throw easily, $1,000 every other week. And, I get a lot of these ancillary products, we've talked about. I'm not going to be the dead horse on it. None of it sells, So it is what it is. That's just part of the game. It's part of business. And even for some of the brick and mortars that are out there that I personally know friends of that started up as well, they're having a hard time getting anything as well. I don't have a lot of overhead, so I'm not super upset that I'm not getting anything, but I'm hoping, the amount of money I put into distribution eventually that'll throw me a little more bone. But to get back on topic, the brand, right? I want folks to know who I am. TCG player, I've done pretty good at. Like I said, I've sold a lot of singles. A lot of the ancillary products actually do sell. I mean, by ancillary, binders. Final Fantasy binders that I was getting from distro, they would sell like hotcakes on TCG player. Even with the 12-13% fee I'm paying, I was still making maybe $5 off a sale. It just kind of blew my mind. Like, a Cloud Final Fantasy 9-pocket Ultra Pro binder selling for $63, $64, $99 on TCG player, but I'm putting it on my site at MSRP with $10 shipping and couldn't sell any of them. I guess that comes into brand. People don't know me. People don't trust me. People don't know who I am. Just some random dude on the internet, YouTube, content guy, whatever. And here I am. So I understand that. That's why, for me, I'm going to start building that brand better, recording the journey better, kind of giving you what I know better, because I don't know I don't know anything. All right, let's just put it that way. I'm not a businessman. I don't have no business majors. I'm an engineer by trade. So there's a lot of stuff I've learned. And, my biggest learning curve has just been shipping. I'm just trying to still figure that piece of that puzzle out. Tariffs, figure that part out. Before there was tariffs, easy, figure that out. That was pretty simple. But that shipping piece is always the hard part. And, I try to, with new Japanese sets, they're usually pretty high in price when they get released from Japan, and looking at their price and looking at TCG Marketplace, make sure it makes sense. Sometimes those I'll sell at, $5 or at market, but I'll get free shipping, and I'm still maybe $4 in profit. So, hey, I'm not losing out, and that's fine. Every dollar counts. It's when you lose $10, $15, $20 on something, especially like some of the distribution items I've sold that I have sold on TCG Player for less than either MSRP when you have the fee, I lose money, or the price I bought it at wholesale and lost. Yeah, pretty much you lose everything after shipping, right? The brand, that's the key. That is the key, and I see it work for so many people, and I think that's my biggest hiccup so far with not for PokeJacks is nobody knows who I am, and nobody trusts me. Huge shout out to TRJ, Team Rocket Joey. Say what you want, think what you want, hate them, love them, like whatever. I really am grateful for him, shouting out on his video yesterday morning. Meant a lot. Super grateful for it. And, what I had available at the time, it's gone. Like, literally, my shelves are clean. I got some stuff here. Obviously, that stuff. But, yeah, you'll see this stuff come up here very shortly. I want to do more. I wanted to give back more. So I'm going to end this video. And, I appreciate everybody. Appreciate the likes, the subs, the followings on Instagram, YouTube. Again, like I said, huge shout out to TRJ. I really appreciate it, brother, putting it on there. Meant a lot. My phone blew up this morning. I was like, holy shit. I saw the video, but I didn't know how. You got a following here in Jacksonville, TRJ. You got a huge following, because the amount of people that messaged me or hit me up on, Facebook Messenger, Instagram was ridiculous. So I appreciate that. Meant a lot. And, thank you for taking that chance on me and, putting that stuff out there. But other than that, I wish you all the best. Y'all have a great Tuesday, and chat with y'all later. 9 to 4 out.